Welcome to the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we celebrate the power, brilliance, and resilience of women everywhere. I'm your host, Shanasia Washington. Join us as we share inspiring stories and insights from extraordinary women who have found their voice and are making a difference. Together, we'll create a ripple effect, illuminating the path to visibility and empowerment. Let's break barriers, shatter ceilings, and lift each other up. In each episode, we dive deep into the journeys of women who have turned their challenges into triumphs and their dreams into reality. Whether you're looking for motivation, guidance, or a community that understands your journey, you're in the right place. Stay tuned and remember, let your voice shine. Hello, everyone, and you already know what time it is. I am back with another amazing episode of the Her Voice Shines podcast, where we don't skip on guests here. We're always so happy to bring these women into the space to share their stories and really give an authentic vibe and conversation. I'm your fabulous host, Shanasia Washington, based in the beautiful city of Houston, Texas, and we don't waste time around here. We're just going to bring our guest in, and you know the drill. She's going to say her name, where she's streaming from, and we jump right into their story. So without any further hesitation, here's our amazing guest.
Hi, I'm Olya Schaefer. I am the founder of the Athleticus Personal Training in St. Petersburg, Florida. And at the Athleticus, we focus strictly on personal training. So one-on-one training for people who want to get fitter or who have some sort of a condition or an injury where they really want experts to guide them so they don't get re-injured and so that they can come back into their sport or just get back into general fitness, which they may have been missing. So I don't come from fitness. My background is actually in software development and project management. I've worked for startups my entire career, and I got into fitness as a client. I trained, at different gyms. I did the whole run on a treadmill thing for a long time, tried to be thin. Never really focused so much on health, more on aesthetics. But as I got older, it got harder. And also, I wasn't seeing really any results. For someone who worked out as much as I did, I was very much the average American woman. And I was in CrossFit all the time. So at some point, I had a slight injury and I started training with someone one-on-one. And I was able to talk about my goals, what I actually wanted. So one of the things I wanted was to not think about my workouts. I didn't want to plan them. I didn't want to figure out if it's leg day. I just wanted to come in and do stuff and then go home. And another thing that I always wanted, but I never got, was a pull-up and a chin-up. I wanted to be able to do that. And of course, I wanted abs like everyone else. And it was amazing how quickly that progress came when I was actually focusing on those things and someone was focusing strictly on me and not just a room of 20 people who were all running around. So I had a good experience in that training, and I went on to other gyms and different trainers, and I just kept finding kind of flaws with the space, with the staffing. I kept thinking, I would make it cleaner, or I would add more people, or I would open up that window. So at some point someone said, why don't you just do it? And I said, I do come from startups. I am used to running a small kind of group team company. So maybe I would actually try it. And so I did. I planned it out. I got some certifications in fitness myself, even though I don't typically train. I work more on the back end, on the management side. But it's been really great. We are pretty small, but that was by intent. I never meant to have a large, physical space with a million trainers. I wanted it to feel private and intimate. Sorry, guys, I'm trying to get my hair. So I wanted it to feel private and intimate, and I wanted people to always have an opportunity to reschedule, to find a time slot that works for them as a client. I appreciated that when I had a really busy day. So we're focusing on just one thing. We do personal training, and we really are diligent about people's goals. We want to know what you want to accomplish, and then we help you get there. So for a lot of people, those goals start out as weight loss, right? People come in, they say, I want to lose 30 pounds. I want to lose 40 pounds. And as we delve deeper and as we work with them, we find out that what they really want is some sort of function, or some sort of an aesthetic look that they're looking to achieve. But for a lot of people, it's also pain relief. A lot of people who spend all day sitting, driving, leaning over time, they have pain and they learn to live with it. It starts to feel like that's just part of getting older. That's part of my life, but it doesn't have to be that way. And exercise is it is essentially healthcare and physical therapy together. So when you have someone who is an expert guide you, and my team is extremely experienced, I hire people with incredible credentials, and I'm very fortunate that I have the team that I have. But when you're guided with a team like that, you progress quickly because they're focused on you rather than general fitness. And you can pivot. So, for example, we've had people who started out as general weight loss clients, but over time they got more ambitious. They felt like, I want to accomplish an athletic goal, or I want some sort of a functional goal. We have people who are training for events, not necessarily athletic events, but we have someone who is training to walk the Camino de Santiago in Spain. It's a long hike, somewhat similar to the Appalachian Trail. And so she is training to be fit enough to walk a certain amount of miles per day. We have people who are training for other events, things that are just very active. But we also work with a lot of people who have injuries or who don't feel safe just going out to the gym and hitting the weights. So people who have had knee replacements, hip replacements. And what I'm finding is that people need to be reminded more than they need to be taught, and they need to be encouraged. Most people know how to lose weight, move more, eat less, eat veg. But they need that encouragement. They need the accountability because the information is out there and it's free. You can find it on YouTube. There's no secret, right? There's no secret that we're selling. It's that having someone specific, a named person waiting for you by the door at this agreed upon time, checking their watch, texting you, and then being really disappointed that if you can't make it. That accountability is, I think, what really helps and drives people. Being known, having people know you, truly know your circumstances, your family, your pets' names. I think that personal approach is something people really miss. It's like Cheers effect, the coming in someplace where everyone knows your name. So I think as we get more involved in technology and technology replaces some of those personal interactions, the most high value services will come back to being personal and in person. And so that's what we offer. Apps and prompts can do a lot of the same things. But for people who truly value that one-on-one and that personalized service, having a person is just irreplaceable. So for me, tapping into that market of those few people who appreciate and need and want this has been really helpful. And as an entrepreneur, I found that not taking on other things, as tempting as they are, group fitness, kids programs, all kinds of stuff, and fiercely focusing on one thing and trying to do that as well as possible. And until we're excellent, not taking on anything else, I think has actually been great because it allows me to fully focus and say no to a ton of stuff that could be a distraction, a lot of that shiny object syndrome. So right now at the Athleticus, we're about 18 months old. We are looking to expand. I have brought on 3 new people onto the team, and we're looking to bring on a 4th. So it's all exciting things. And I was able to leave my full-time position as an IT manager and focus on this full-time, which has been fantastic, and I'm really enjoying it. I work more hours, a lot more hours, but I really, really like it. And as a proof of concept and a confidence booster, it's been fantastic to know that I can go out and if I work really hard, put my mind to it, I can make something and build something has been, for me personally, really great. And I enjoy very much the people that I get to meet and get to know over time, as well as getting fitter myself and having that time and space to make that part of my job. So overall, it's been awesome.
Yeah, that's great. And I picked up on a couple of things you said. One of the things that really stood out, you said that you didn't want to think about your workout. And that's
Mm-hmm.
definitely like a thing, right? Because if you have all this stuff going on and you have to think about this place, sometimes, for me personally, I feel like that workout space feels like, oh, another thing to do, even though I probably know I need to do it. But here is another thing to do on this growing list of things that's always growing. I want you to talk about specifically to someone who's saying, I am not getting the results. Like, we live in this world, we look on Instagram, we think everything is instant. Also, to the other part of that no results is that, like, you've been doing all these other things for so long, like you can't expect for these results to happen overnight or for it to just flip when you've had maybe a lifestyle of doing whatever. I want you to speak to that person because so often people are discouraged in their workout regimens and different things. But can you speak to someone who's saying, I'm not getting this result, I'm quitting today if I don't see a change like right now?
Well, the results thing is a bummer. And I hear it and I see it in myself. There's kind of a disappointing statistic, right? Or numerical fact. If you overeat by 250 calories a day or undertrain, like if you just consume and underutilize 250 calories a day, which is a beer or 2 bananas, you will gain 26 pounds of body fat in a year. Like 250 calories is nothing. You can absolutely overeat by that very easily, and most people do. So it is very difficult to see results because think of the opposite, right? You have to undereat by 250 calories every day consistently. No Taco Tuesday, no Sunday brunch, no birthday cake. You have to undereat by that amount or overtrain for an entire year to lose 26 pounds of body fat. So that's disappointing, right? People see these before and afters on Instagram. They want that. The thing is, right, those before and afters, it's like the Rocky scene in the movie, right? From when he's just like running around on the stairs of Philadelphia to when he's winning. But in the movie, it's 10 minutes between those phases. But in real life, that's 4 years. Usually it's 2, 3, 4 years for most people to have a drastic change. So I try to set those expectations up front and to not focus on weight, but to focus on body fat percentages. Rather than trying to just lose weight. Losing weight could be water, it could be muscle. It's not really indicative of much, but losing body fat is definitely a thing. And for the people who are disappointed, here's the thing, right? If it takes, let's say, 2 years of concerted effort to get you to the shape that you want, what's terrible is that most of us relive the first 6 months over and over and over. We were really good. We're really diligent, right? For 4 months, 5 months, then we quit. Then at some point we come back. We're like, no, I got to do this. I got to do this. Start again at 0. Go to 3, 4, 5 months, quit. So it feels like you've been on a fitness journey for decades, but in reality, you are repeating month 0 through 6 25 times. Whereas if you would buckle down and do the thing for 2 years, you would be where you want to be in 2 years. So I do try to impart that. It's tough, right? We see so many people who say that it's effortless. They eat hamburgers, they drink, they hang out, they party. You see them looking beautiful on boats and with a drink in their hand. But, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? Like it's not reality, or it may even be reality for someone, but if it's not reality for you, and we just have to work with what we have. Some people have limitations. Some people have a slow metabolism. Some people truly do have health conditions. Most of us, though, simply need to get past month 6, month 7, month 8, and not slide back down to 0 because we went on a trip and it was awesome and we had nachos. So that's the tough part, right? Like trudging along when it looks like there's no point. But that's how you win. It's the consistency. It's terribly boring. I don't have a sexy answer. There's no trick. Like if people pay us money, that will be like, all right, well, you're in the top premium tier. We're going to tell you the trick. It's just the same for everyone. It's consistency and knowing that it won't be super fast. I don't ask people at the gym for commitments and we don't have year-long contracts, but I don't take people who can't commit to 3 months because truthfully, very little can be accomplished for people with big goals. in any period less than that. So try to be realistic is really all we can do. And some people get it, and they do get great results because they get past that month 7, 8, 9, 10, and they get over that plateau, and then they really, really start to see it.
Yeah, I think what was good about what you just did is that you actually gave those concrete numbers. Sometimes you have to hear that. You mentioned a 250 calories, like hearing that number and knowing what specific item is so simple to get that 250, and then saying, okay, it's just 6 months. Here is a good base for consistency to build that. So I think sometimes when people hear those numbers and like concrete facts, they can start then getting some like realistic timelines. Because with the pictures, you don't see this, and people are back in the gyms now, and they are being consistent about their workout regimens and really, really wanting that in-person touch. Because now I'm seeing like the gym that's right here by me, that thing stays jumping. Like people are back in and really, really wanting to get back consistent. So thanks for sharing there. One of the things you mentioned is that when you started, that you got some type of health certifications to kind of help you along this journey. I know that you don't practice as much. Can you maybe talk about some of those certifications that you can gather in this space? Because there may be people that are leaning in that want to join this space and need to know probably what they can do to enhance their skills.
So, well, first of all, when I was going to school, I don't believe that there was such a thing as sports science degrees. People didn't go to school to become a personal trainer, or rather, they didn't go to college. But now there are degrees in sports science, kinesiology. So if you have that type of passion, there are actual accredited colleges that will give that as a Bachelor of Science degree. So obviously, those are incredibly valuable. On the flip side, you can get certified as a personal trainer in a weekend seminar. So when you are choosing a provider, I think the most important thing is really, do you like this person? Do you trust them? Because if you don't like and trust them, then you simply won't go to the gym. You just will avoid them and you'll kind of make excuses. But secondarily, you do want to find someone who has a strong background in science and not in fad diets or some sort of crazy, workouts of 5 minutes a day and you have abs or whatever. So National Academy of Sports Science is a well-respected and trusted accreditation organization. There's several others. Truthfully, I focus more on the collegiate level, like that type of education, and then NASM. But there's also ACE. There's a ton of accreditation organizations. I would encourage people to do their research and to not cut corners. You can be certified very quickly, very easily. It's almost like becoming ordained to marry people online. You can pay $19.99 and get a certification. But the knowledge and the practical experience are really hard to get that way. So for people who don't want to go to the college route, I would recommend going to a local gym, asking to shadow, asking to work for minimum wage. Every gym could use a helper. Do some cleanup, shadow people. You will learn a lot by watching and learning how to cue people. Simply saying, move your leg to the right side of your right arm. You need to say things in a way that people understand it. And you learn how to say things differently to different people by hearing it. So a lot of it is just practice. But insofar as getting certifications, err on the side of more stringent ones. Most gym owners and most people in fitness do know what is a 2-day seminar, and they are not super thrilled to hire people with that type of credential. But there are just too many to name. And I'm finding that experience and the ability to relate to people and meet them where they are is really the most important. For me, an interview question I ask coaches is, who's your favorite population to work with? And I know that they're very inexperienced if they say athletes, because athletes are a very small category of training clients. Typically, they're very young. And usually, as soon as an athlete person is at a point where they actually need professional coaching, they're on a team that provides this. So as an independent or a local personal trainer, the potential of working with athletes is practically nil, right? Unless it's a teenager whose parents are bringing them, and But before they're signed with a college team or with any other affiliation, somehow or another in that moment in time, you meet that athlete and you can train them, and their parents can afford this expenditure. This is a very rare case. So for most personal trainers, a category that is going to be a viable category are people who have injuries, orthopedic stuff. People who are looking to lose weight is a big one. And people in pain, people who want to get stronger and want to get out of feeling like they're in pain and weak. So learning about those populations rather than focusing on athletes, I think for most people in personal training is going to be the ticket to finding employment and finding clients.
Okay, I love it. I want to go here because I want to connect the two, because you said that you have been working with startups for quite some time and then you kind of pivoted into your own. So number one, from your experience with startups, what are some of those things that stood out that you knew that you kind of had to master while transitioning into yours? Because you've seen this thing and you worked in it, but then now I'm starting my own. So what are some things that you took from that? I know one you mentioned that stood out. You said you kind of have to stay laser focused on that thing versus trying to, raise your hand for every other product and service. Like you mentioned, like, workouts. So kind of talk to us from that lens of transitioning from kind of building the startups to building your own. What are some of those things that stood out, and what are some of those things you may even still be tweaking as you still build this newer brand?
Yeah. So, the startups that I worked on were software development startups. So somebody would have an idea for an app, right? Think of anything on your phone, and they would try to pull a team together. So usually you need a couple of developers, a front-end designer, maybe to make it pretty, and typically someone to manage that process. So I would come in on the management side. And when you're building an app like that, you really can't go in different directions. Like, oh, but what about this? But what about that? But what if we made it like, no, if you can't make 17 different apps, you don't have the budget and you don't have the team. So you have to be very, very determined and strategic to say, we are building this and it is going to be that. So I learned that type of focus early on. Another thing with software development is that you can't fall in love with your own product, because oftentimes you will need investors, and oftentimes those investors don't care about the product. What they care about is whether it will be viable in the marketplace and whether people will buy it. They themselves are not going to use your app. Your investors are simply saying, hey, I think people want this, so I'm going to invest in it because I believe other people will want this. So what they will do is they will look at your product with a much more critical eye to the market. Not is it cool or does it do the thing that you said it would do, but what they're looking at is, will someone, lots of someones, pay for it? So oftentimes they will look at an app that is your baby and you've developed, and they will completely break it apart and say, take this off, make it green, put this button over here, scrap this entire piece. I'll just take this little bit. So essentially this thing that you created, right? Someone's going to pull off an arm and a leg and a head and they go, oh, I just want this. And you can't, as an inventor or as a developer, get really embroiled in that and have your feelings hurt and say, but it's beautiful, but it works perfectly, but you have to keep the whole thing. You have to brutally cut those pieces and add functionality to the point where what you originally envisioned is gone and something entirely new is happening to bring it to market to be sold. And people who really fall in love with their own creation, they don't do very well because they refuse to make changes. They refuse to adapt to the market. And oftentimes they're blind to the fact that actually no one wants this. It's cool, but no one wants to pay for it. And that's a key differentiator, right? Sometimes people will think it's cool, but will they buy it? And the answer is no. And so what you have to do is you have to make something that's cool, but people will also want to buy for money. And that's where a lot of startups, they take so long to see that and to come to terms with that and actually do the things that they have to do to bring the app to market, that they lose momentum and they never get there. Or somebody beats them and comes in first, and then you're second. And guess what? No one really wins that way. So I learned very early on to not fall in love with my ideas and to know that you could be working on something for 3, 4, 5 months, and then someone will come in and go, trash it. We're doing the other thing. And You just have to pivot. You just have to turn and go, yep, done, trashed, moving on, rather than, kind of arguing, but wait, I'm almost done, but it's so good. So that served me really well, to just really, truly not care. Like, if people don't want this, then we're not doing it, and that's fine. In the beginning, I really wanted group classes. I like group classes. I like jumping around and yelling a lot. So it was definitely my thing, but no one wanted it. Like, no one wanted to actually come and pay for group classes. So I moved into personal training very, very quickly. And I think it was because I don't have this innate need to just keep doing something until it works. If I saw that it wasn't working, I very easily gave it up very quickly. And I think that's where a lot of entrepreneurs who don't have a lot of runway and a lot of money to just keep going and going and going, they fail because they, rather than pivoting when they could have still salvaged a piece of the project and some funds, they took too long to kind of mess around with it and not let go. That by the time they do let go, other opportunities have gone. So that's part of software kind of development. I worked at a company for a while that had a motto of fail fast. And what that means is, if it's not working, then get out of it quickly. Like, if it's going to fail, let it fail as quickly as possible so you can move on to something else and maybe be successful there, right? So if you're not going to be successful, figure it out really, really fast, fail quickly, push it hard, move on. So that served me well. The other thing with app development is it's modular. So it's not like building a building where it's always the same, right? You always start with the ground floor and you always end with, landscaping, right? With app development, you can start with pieces that seemingly are out of order. So that helped me with the gym as well, because I was able to do certain things that might seem out of order. So for example, I wrote the employee manual before I had a space, before I had equipment, before I had employees, but I had time. So that's when I wrote the employee manual. And of course it's been amended, but I started there rather than waiting until I had employees to then write the manual. Because in my mind, things do not have to be sequential. Things can just be done out of order. And I think that's also helped, right? For people who generally think kind of in a waterfall method, right? You start here, then you move down this list that things have to be in a particular sequence. A lot of times in business, there may be a traditional way of doing things that is sequential, but there's no actual good reason why you can't go out of order. And so being used to working in that manner, I think, was very helpful to me, because I was very used to saying, okay, well, during COVID, a window paint was delayed by months. So rather than just kind of saying, okay, well, we can't do anything because we're waiting for this window paint to finish construction, we did a whole bunch of stuff that typically people do after construction is over. But I was able to do because I just didn't let that, in my mind, it was okay to just let that sit and do some other things, to include like painting, which traditionally would be done after construction. But we were able to do quite a lot of painting while we were still kind of in the midst of it.
I love it. And you know what, the thing that stood out to me the most was that pivot power, because so often, like, even, like in my space when I first started, it's only been since 2021 for me. Well, I'll say I left corporate in 2021, but started this piece in 2022.
Oh, nice.
So it's still fairly new. And I can remember in those earlier stages it was just so the focus on building the product and service and going out there and hammering. But then when you get to the 6 months piece and you're not getting the results, or you're not getting the reach, you're not doing the thing, at what point do you have this either introspective thing, or you have someone else look at it to see, hey, what do you need to do to pivot to start getting toward results? And I think that's very, very hard for some entrepreneurs to do, especially if they're not keen to doing the introspective work or raising their hand to say, hey, somebody needs to look at this quickly because I'm not getting the results. So that pivot power is so important. And I'm so happy that you touched on that. It also too makes me kind of remember as I'm continuing to advance my products and services that fail fast stays at the forefront of my mind, because I don't want to just be ticking at it, and it's really not going to get me anywhere at the end. So I'm so happy you brought that up. I want to ask you this before we close out, because I know that often, you're helping people reach their goals in terms of health and things of that nature. how are you keeping yourself on track? Is it one of those situations where it's like a little bit harder because you're helping so many other people, or does it kind of flow intrinsically because you already do these things and you can kind of still have that moment to focus on your own personal training journey? I just have to ask because you are a service provider, so I want to see how that kind of works for you.
Absolutely. When I started the gym, a couple of my gym friends and owners said, you're never going to be less fit than when you have your own gym. And I was like, I'm going to work out all the time. It's going to be fantastic. And they were right. It's so hard because it's, you're a cobbler with no shoes, right? You're going to get your own workout in after other people. I've been much better at it. I've had, and I still actually, when we have time, I get trained by my coaches, because as much as I know enough to train myself, but it is just not the same. My fitness suffers when I don't have a coach. So as much as I can, I still have my team train me. But I think like everyone else, right? Like I'm a business owner. I have stuff to do. I have a husband. I have things. You just brutally put it on the calendar like any other appointment, and you get it done. And it's not optional. As the face of the company, I can only, not train so much before it's confusing to people that I own a gym. When people start to go, oh yeah, then like, okay, I better hit it like in the gym a little harder. Even though I don't aim to be, the personify fitness, because I own a gym, there are expectations that you will be fit. So on occasion, of course, I allow myself to just digress, right? Like I had a few months, I ate ice cream, I did all the things. I was like, oh, it's bulking season. It really kind of wasn't bulking season, but I called it that. But now I'm back on the wagon, and I have to show people and kind of put my money where my mouth is and say, I tell you guys that progress in 4, 5, 6 months is possible. So, I kind of publicly said, I'm going to get down to this body fat percentage level by October. And then I'm going to get down to this lower body fat percentage by December. And, I'm tracking it on social media. I'm taking progress photos. I think it's important to be accountable. And it's also important to show people that if you say you can do something, that you can do it, right? So I'm a 44-year-old female. So a lot of people say it's an age thing. Oh, well, it's when you get older. So I'm showing people, here's what I can do. And so therefore you can do it. And it's not to say that it's easy, but it's also very well documented on how to do this. So as long as you follow the plan, you will do it too. You can. So, every so often I do like to kind of challenge myself and show my clients that this is what people do, and it's very possible. And you can choose not to do it. So, that's okay too. But if you want to, here's what progress looks like. Here's what it takes. So right now, I am training 5 days a week. I am keeping a macros like log. I'm weighing my food to the gram because I want to get to this body fat percentage very quickly. So for me, sometimes I don't want to necessarily represent fitness, but I do have to. So part of the reason I even opened a gym was to have a career that does prioritize health. I think before I was working long hours, everybody's sitting at their desk. All we did was have Zoom meetings while snacking. So I did want to find a way where health would be a daily part of my work. So, this is what I wanted, and this is what I have. And now I have to live up to that standard that I'm bringing by saying you can be working long hours. You can have a high intense job. You can have a family, but you can still make time for fitness. So I guess that's something that I've put on myself. I've met people who are in fitness who themselves do not personify that. But I think to clients and to people coming in, that impression is important. And so I have to, practice what I preach.
Yeah, I totally think so, because me personally, if I was looking for a personal trainer, I'm definitely looking for someone that in some regards embodies health, right? That's just my personal preference. Maybe it's different for others,
Absolutely.
But I know that if I was looking, that's what I would be looking for. Tell them, Olya, where they can find you, how they can connect with you, and really, if anyone was looking for these services, particularly in your area, what would be the best way, or to lean into your services?
Awesome. Thank you. So we are located in Gulfport, Florida. Technically, we're in Gulfport, but we're in the same street that divides Gulfport from St. Petersburg, Florida. So online, we are The Athleticus. So it's all one word, theathleticus.com. My name is fairly easy to find. I am the only person with my name. It's Olya Schaefer, Olya. And you can definitely find us on Instagram. We are The Athleticus on Instagram. On Facebook, we are The Athleticus FL for Florida. Check us out. And if you are in the area, please take a look. We would love to meet with you, chat about fitness, see if we can help.
I love it. Oh, this has been a great episode.
Thank
I love the way that we've been able to talk about both health and also to layer in some of those business aspects. I really try to bring well-rounded information because there are going to be different catches for people, whether it's the health space or just something you heard. Like even for me, it's kind of stepping into a viewer perspective and thinking about some of that structure as it relates to pivoting, which we talked about. Thank you so much for being here. A true honor. This has been another great and fabulous episode of Her Voice Shines podcast. We'll be back with another fabulous guest as always. And remember to let your voice shine. And until next time, we're out.